Welcome to the 1905 podcast, home of the world champions, Chelsea. Each week, Joe and I bring you our unfiltered takes on the highs, the lows, and everything in between, following the Blues from Gate 13 of the Matthew Harding stand. Let's hit the notes.
Good afternoon and welcome back to the Chelsea 1905 podcast, where Chelsea have just won 3-0 at the City Ground. At a very raucous City Ground, as Ange Postecoglou has been getting absolute pelters for pretty much the entire second half. So, yeah, excuse me for my voice. I have somehow lost it and found it again, and this is about as good as it's going to be for the next few days, I think. So, hopefully you can hear this okay. A weird and wonderful game, actually. I thought Chelsea played good and bad in equal measure, but we somehow managed to win 3-0. I think that we can count ourselves lucky not to be a goal or two down in the first 25 minutes. I thought our defending was much to be desired. Acheampong and Chalobah, etc., were not covering themselves in a lot of glory, and I think Malo Gusto again in midfield was a bit of a weird one, and he wasn't really playing particularly well, kept giving the ball away. Having Lavia there sort of helped by not having Caicedo, but I think the main man, we all know these days, is Caicedo, and when he doesn't play, Chelsea are a very different team, as anyone would be without their star player in midfield. So I think that we can all be very grateful that Caicedo's injury wasn't as bad as it was first feared, and he actually played the second half, which was nice. And seeing him come on and dominate the second half was, a sight for sore eyes. So, really pleased about that. I'll try and keep this note relatively quick. I know I say that a lot and then I go on for 10 minutes, but I'll try and keep this relatively short, and Chris can come on and do his thing and go into more of the game details, as he's got a voice a lot stronger than mine at the moment. What I will say is I think that Maresca needs a lot of credit. I think the injury list that Chelsea have got at the moment is remarkable, and it doesn't matter how big a squad you have in some ways. The fact you've got Delap, Palmer, Colwill, Badiashile, Fernandes, Caicedo, although he came back today, and Fofana as well. Plus, I'm sure there's one or two that I've missed. I think to have that list of players out of your side, and you're able to come away with a 3-0 win against a fairly decent Premier League side is remarkable. So I think Enzo deserves a lot of credit for that. I think we've sort of mentioned we had a style over substance podcast last week, and none of those comments were aimed directly at him. I think it's more a case of managers that have come in the past. I think go back to someone like Sarri as well, and Tuchel. They've all got their styles of play. I think what I want to see from Maresca going forward is an ability to play every game as you see fit. Don't just play the same system. Don't play the same players if it's not working. I think that it was great to see Mark Guiu come on in the second half, because I was a little bit frustrated that he didn't start. But I think he made a huge difference. I think he could be a real game changer for Chelsea. I loved his movement. I thought he was, again, we've said it many, many times, but he's a real pain in the arse to the opposing defenders, because he doesn't give them any peace. He's willing to put his body on the line. You noticed he gave the big centre-back, might have been Milinkovic, a huge shove whilst going for the ball, obviously knocking him over, and then he got a big shove back from somebody else as he went to retrieve the ball. But he's willing to go and get himself in those little scraps, and I don't mind that in my strikers. Delap does that. We're missing that hugely from him at the moment. So it was nice to see him come on and get some minutes. I thought João Pedro, to his credit, had a much better game. I think he's been a little bit, I don't want to say poor, but he's maybe a little bit isolated in the last few weeks, and we haven't really seen the best of him. But I think having a player like Mark Guiu up front with him, I think will actually do him the world of good. So fingers crossed we can sort of see something happen between them maybe in the coming weeks and games. I thought Cucurella was his usual brilliant best. He's a 7.5, 8 out of 10 every week at the moment, and I think he's a player that we can't really afford to go down injured, although I think maybe João Hato could be a great replacement there, but I think Cucurella is proving why he's so good and so key to this side, with some fantastic defending, some fantastic attacking, and again links the play so well through the midfield. But I think the stars of the show today, without any question, were Neto and Reece James. I think Reece, another 90 minutes for Reece, scoring a goal on his 200th appearance for Chelsea, which is absolutely fantastic. I think he deserves a huge amount of credit for working his way back into the side, and fingers crossed he can stay fit and we can keep him healthy for the remainder of the season, because with him in the side we are completely different. But yeah, I thought Neto was decent in the first half. I thought he created a lot of chances. He sort of did well in the first half without having that last good pass, the one that was going to set up a chance. The cross maybe was a bit floaty, or he hit the front man or something. It was never quite right, but the build-up play was good. But in the second half, he got that much better. Great cross for the first goal, and obviously a nice free kick for the second. But I thought his all-round game was superb, and a player that I think that has really grown on us. We always liked him. I think Chris and I both liked him as a signing when he joined us last summer, quite late on in the window. But I think he's really grown on us, and I think he's someone that we get quite excited about. He has moments where he goes out of games here and there, but when Neto's on it, he's very hard to play against. And sort of seeing the signs of the form that we maybe had at Wolves. He was always a real nuisance for them, and whenever we played against Wolves, he was always giving us some grief. So nice to see him score, nice to see him assist and have another good game. And I think he's become a real important player for Chelsea on the wing, because many have come and some are still there and some have gone, but Neto seems to be one that they seem to trust. And I think he feels like a bit of a grown-up winger. He doesn't seem like the young one. You feel like you can trust him. You know, if you ask him to do a job, he can do it. And you know, some of the other ones need to learn off him, I think, a little bit. But I think Garnacho was fairly ineffectual in the first half. But I would have liked to have seen him stay on. Thought it was a bit unlucky there. I thought Gittins again didn't do huge amount in the time that he was on. But I think overall, Chelsea can be really pleased with their day's work. I think it is quickly worth mentioning that Nottingham Forest could have scored more than one goal today. That Neco Williams volley before Nottingham Forest hit the bar and the post at the same time, when Robert Sanchez sort of palmed it away. They could have scored maybe one or two goals in the first half. So we didn't have it all our own way. You're never going to score every chance you get, I know that, but they were quite glaring chances for Forest, and I think it's certainly an area we need to clean up. We've got away with a clean sheet today somehow, but you know, you can't sit there and tell me that Chelsea didn't make you sweat, because you know, all afternoon, as good as they were going forward, you always felt as though they could give you a chance at the back, and they certainly gave plenty of chances away. But look, overall, like what I've just said, with that injury list we've got and the amount of attacking talent and defending talent we have out at the moment, it's just a real credit to Maresca to come away with a good 3 points. He's seen the game from a different position today after receiving his one match ban for celebrating with his team, which is complete nonsense in my opinion, but rules are rules, I suppose. And goodness me, isn't the world becoming quite sterile when you can't even celebrate with your teammates without getting a red card? And just lastly, just very, very quickly, bit disappointed at the end. Esteval gets a yellow card for kicking the ball in an open goal for no reason. Rob Sanchez gets himself another yellow card for time wasting in the 94th minute of 95 minutes when we're 3-0 up, which is a complete utter bollocks. And Malo Gusto, you're on a yellow card. There's 2 minutes to go plus injury time. You're 3-0 up, and you go in for a rash lunging tackle, get yourself another yellow card, and that's Chelsea's 4th red card in 5 games. Plus the manager, that's 5 red cards in 5 games. It's not good enough. The discipline needs to change. It's been going on for far too long, and quite frankly, you know, this is something we really need to look at, because this is going to bite us in the arse as the games tick by. And yeah, not great for that. But overall, really happy with the team performance. And rode our luck at times, absolutely we did. But a 3-0 win away from home is never to be sneezed at. So go on the Chelsea.
Win on my birthday. You really can't beat that feeling, can you? Chelsea have actually got a strangely excellent record on my birthday when we've had a game on the day. Many a memory of watching us play and winning on my birthday, including a 5-0 win under Scolari up at Middlesbrough, for those you remember, way back in 2008. Today wasn't quite as emphatic as that, and the scoreline probably did flatter us, didn't it, a little bit, but a very, very pleasing win, and I think really important. We talked about it in the preview pod, but it really would have felt so flat following up that brilliant win against Liverpool if we hadn't won today. And to be honest, I was quite nervous going into it. I was a bit worried. There was almost too much confidence around the game, I think. So much talk of Ange Postecoglou. Would he be even in charge for the game? By the way, he has just been sacked as of recording, which is kind of hilarious. Chelsea fans giving him all sorts of stick from the side of the pitch, obviously saying you're going to get sacked in the morning. Well, he didn't even make it to the morning. But it just felt like almost maybe overconfident going into it. But and saying that first half, as Joe said, was not great. We grew into it as it went on a little bit, didn't we? But we started really badly, kind of lucky probably not to have gone behind. But yeah, a really important win, really important. And there are a set of games coming up until we play Spurs where there are lots of winnable games in the mix. I just think we need to try and get a run together of wins like we did this time last year, where we, of course, put that amazing run up until Christmas and we're, as we know, just behind Liverpool going into Christmas. I don't know if we can do that with the injuries that Joe's talked about, but you just want to make sure that we, build a bit of a head of steam in the season. It hasn't been a brilliant start. Some of the results have probably flattered us a little bit, and now it's about just putting together a run of good results. I want to just add a couple of things on individual performances. Certainly Pedro Neto. I'll start there because Joe, I think, summed up really well. One of the things that Joe has talked about briefly on the pod, but I think is really true, is he's the player, I think, now where you look at him and think, what can you step up to the next level and really add that consistent end product to your game? Because I really think Pedro Neto's got the ability to be a real force in the Premier League. I've said it before, he's brilliantly two-footed. It's one of my favourite things about him. He's really comfortable going on either side, shooting and crossing on either foot. He's got blistering pace, really good aggression. His touch is good. He's kind of got a bit of everything you want in a Premier League winger. And I look at him now and go, can you make that step from a 5 to 10 goal a season player with maybe similar in assists to 10 to 15, 20 goals a season and likewise an assist? We've seen it with, Mo Salah and Mane at Liverpool are probably two great examples who made that step up in their output. And I look at him and think he's got the ability. It's just about consistency and just being aggressive. And it was what he did in that 3 or 4 minute spell with an absolutely brilliant cross for Josh Acheampong's goal, and then a really good strike for the goal. It's a keeper mistake, isn't it, really, with a free kick? But you look at him and think, if you could go and be that player for us, that go-to end product man, goal getter, goal provider, it would be a huge problem, because we know we've got magic in other areas. We've got obviously Cole Palmer, we've got Casado and what he does. What we've missed is really that real wide player that's going to just give you a consistent end product. And I think he's the one who's probably closest. And I really like Neto, and I really hope he can do that, because if he doesn't, then he's always going to be that level for us. He's a good, useful player, but you're probably looking to replace him with someone who can get you that. And I think he's got the ability to step up and do it. So really pleased for him today. And I mentioned him with the goal there, but Josh Acheampong, an amazing moment for him to get his first Chelsea goal, 19 years old. A brilliant, lovely celebration in front of the fans as well. And it was a great header. He is a quality footballer, isn't he? A really, really good player. I don't think I've seen him in a Chelsea shirt and not been impressed with his performance. When he runs forward with the ball, he's really elegant. He's very aggressive. Obviously, he was up against a big centre forward in the first half today. And as Joe said, I think defensively we're all a little bit haphazard in that first half an hour, weren't we? But I thought he grew into the game, and I would be looking at him and thinking, make him a starter, keep him in the team. We know there's going to be players coming in and out at the moment because of injuries. Badiashile now added to the injury list. Give Acheampong a run, and if it's Chalobah next to him, if it's Tosin, if it's Fofana, I would be backing Acheampong, because with a player with that potential, he's going to make mistakes. He needs to learn, but you don't mind when you know the upside is so good. And honestly, I look at him and Colwell as a future pairing and thinking there's just about a bit of everything that you'd want in a modern day centre-back pairing. So I thought it was a really lovely moment for him. I'm sure there'll be a lot written about him after today, because there often is when you get a goal. But yeah, so much promise. And Maresca in the sideline with his doppelganger, Willy Caballero on the sideline. And like Joe said, really, just a huge credit for not mucking around at half-time. The first half performance was poor, kind of matched up to my worry before the game. Probably not the individual changes I would have made, I agree with Mark Gui. I mean, Joe and I had picked out that actually with Mark Gui and João Pedro behind him as our selection before the game. And I think you immediately saw why. João Pedro, again, when he plays in that role and gets deeper, he's so good. Like, he's so good. And actually, weirdly, he feels like he gets more chances when he's playing as a 10 than he does playing up front. So I think with as we know, Cole Palmer now out till December at the earliest. Let's see João Pedro and that number 10 a little bit more. And I think whether it is Mark Gui or even someone like a Garnacho up front doing those runs in behind, I think it creates a different problem for teams that we don't otherwise have. So really important change there. I think made a big difference to the way we played. And yeah, Caicedo, it's just the level up that you get with a player like him, as Joe said, is just unbelievable. But overall, really, really good win, important win for us. Puts us back again. The league table looks so much more reasonable now, doesn't it, than it did a couple of games ago. And yeah, a nice moment to finish. I'm going to go and enjoy my birthday now, playing six-a-side football with Joe, actually, and a few friends, and then having a couple of beers tonight to celebrate with a real spring in my step. And we'll come back to analyse it a little bit more tomorrow. But yeah, great win for Chelsea. Onwards and upwards.
Good morning. I've just arrived home from a pulsating game of youth football. My son has played out a 6-5 loss today, but he played incredibly well, scored a audacious direct free kick, which was nice to see. But yeah, great effort for youth football, and goodness me, there's some young talent out there, I can tell you, that's coming through the ranks, and a few of these boys are going to be something special for the future, I think. But reflecting on yesterday's game a little bit, I think that Chelsea's sort of, not their season of course, but that sort of performance was on a knife edge there. If they got blown away in the first half with a couple of mistakes that we made defensively and gone in at 2-0 down or something, you know, those sliding doors moments where you think, oh goodness me, he's going to be under heat again. And obviously by the end of the game we have another red card, so that will be brought into question as well. But they did ride their luck a little bit for the first 20 minutes. I thought that Chelsea did come out in the remaining 25 and actually put a bit of good possession together, and they kind of held Nottingham Forest at bay. But I just think overall, those changes that Maresca made in the second half, you know, he's openly come out today and said that they prepared all week for Nottingham Forest to play with a back five, and they played with a back four. The changes were made at half time, and to be fair, that was a great tactical call. I've sort of questioned Maresca sometimes that he plays the wrong team and then he brings three players on, and you shouldn't need to do that at half time every time. That kind of shows you they've probably picked the wrong team. I would suggest that yesterday's maybe not quite that. It's them assuming that Postecoglou would go with a back five, and he didn't. So fair play, he didn't continue to play the same team. He did make his changes. I would have presumed that Caicedo was always going to come on at half time. Maybe if they were 2-0 up, they may have left Santos and Lavia to kind of work that out for themselves. But I think that Caicedo coming on definitely gave the team a lift. I think it would have given, you know, all your best players, you know, even players like Reece James would have been thinking that's handy having him there. So, yeah, I'm quite pleased that we didn't wait, you know, another 20 minutes before making those decisions. I think that I will give him credit for, because it's very easy to sit on your hands for a while and then just hope that in the last 20 minutes, 15 minutes, you can do something. At least we gave the team a full 45 minutes, which ends up being 50 minutes with the injury time to get round the problems that Nottingham Forest were causing us. And yeah, it obviously did change the way we played. And like we said earlier on, we're not going to go and repeat ourselves, but obviously Mark Guéhiou with those runs in behind and those kind of irritating pushes and shoves that he gives to the opposition really made a difference. And I think that Mark could be a real handful going forward, and I hope to see him play against Sunderland. I really do. I want to see Pedro, like Chris just said, playing behind an actual number 9, which I think he's turning into, which is great. I personally agree that Acheampong has really played well this season when he's had his time. I would also agree that he deserves to keep playing. I think that when you've got a good player, and we can harp on about the good old days and John Terry and stuff, when they're playing well and the club believe that they've got a player in Acheampong, I think the best thing to do at the moment is to keep him playing, keep him while he's got the hot hand there, make him the starter and play everybody else around him. I think Trev, bless him, he seems to have cut all his hair off, his luscious locks, and has kind of lost some of his superpower. I didn't think Trev had a brilliant game yesterday. I didn't think the last game he played was fantastic against Brighton either. But not that Trev was like awful by any means, but not having that left-sided centre-back play out from the back does make a huge difference to the way we play. Chris and I were talking about this at our football game ourselves we had yesterday, and it hugely makes a difference the way we set up. And even though I might not be Paddy Shaw's biggest fan, the way he did play out from the back against Liverpool was impressive. And it's just those natural passes, those natural passing lanes that we keep talking about. When you're a right footer, you instinctively want to come inside from the left-hand side of the pitch. And Badiashile and obviously Colwell, when he plays, they're able to open the body out and play a comfortable, natural pass out to the fullback, or maybe into, say, Garnacho on the left wing. And I think that we definitely have missed that, and it'd be interesting to see how he solves that problem going forward. Will he stick with Trev and Acheampong for now? Or if Fofana's fit, will he come back into the side? I'm not too sure. But I think Josh Acheampong, like you said, Chris, getting his debut goal for Chelsea in front of the Chelsea fans, great moment for him. And I think that he could become quite pivotal for this Chelsea team now in our next run of fixtures. And, you know, he's sort of staking a claim there that he could push a few out. If he continues to play well and continues to keep his head, be calm under pressure, defend properly, you know, make those driving runs forward. He tried to do that once or twice yesterday. Once he was successful, once he wasn't. But I love the idea of him bringing the ball out from defence into midfield, because it does then create extra players in our attacking zones. If you notice against Liverpool last week, Liverpool play a very rigid back four when out of possession, and Chelsea don't. They play basically a back three and a back two at times, and it creates the overloads, and that's probably got the overload for the Caicedo and Gusto 1-2. That comes because McAllister can't mark two people. So it's interesting how Maresca's system does create these overloads in different areas of the pitch, and Caicedo finds himself in all that space, and they weren't prepared to come out and block it. Van Dijk and I think it might have been Konate on the day, forgive me because I can't remember, both those players stayed back and weren't prepared to go to the ball. They were very rigid and stayed back, and obviously that allowed us to get the shot off and score that goal. But Chelsea basically play with this very fluid system, and to be fair, at times when it works, it does work very, very well. And I think that I'd like to see it happen with our best team in place. I think when you've got everyone back, Palmer, Delap particularly, Levi Colwell, etc., I think, what might that look like in a year's time? I'm really looking forward to the second half of the season, weirdly. I'd like to see us stay in contention for now. You know, I do think there'll be some blips along the way up until Christmas. But if we can get Palmer and Delap back, particularly those two, because Levi Colwell was pretty much out for the season, if we can get those two back, a fit Caicedo, maybe a fit Lavia, goodness me, that would be great, wouldn't it? And one or two other players really kind of performing at their best level, what this Chelsea sort of system might look like. And I think that Acheampong ability to come into midfield and say and create those extra overloads is going to be very important for the club and very important for the way we play. So I'd like to see Josh really given his chance over the next few games and weeks. And, you know, even if he has a dodgy game against somebody, keep playing him. Because I think the worst thing you can do is you have a dodgy game and you get brought out as if it's your fault. I think you just need to keep playing, learn from those mistakes. John Terry learnt from mistakes before. You know, he made one or two errors before. He made an incredible career for himself at the club. You don't take out your best players. If they make a dodgy game, then so be it. But I think be brave enough to leave him in there. What we do on the left-hand side of the fence, I'm not too sure. Is there an argument that Jarell Hato comes in there for a game or two? Maybe against Ajax, who knows? I mean, an interesting call there. You know, a left-sided defender, plays centre-back. He done very well against Liverpool, as we know. Maybe Ajax is the game to bring him in there to see if he's got, from the start, to see if he's got ability to dribble out from the back and, like we say, create those passing lanes for people like Cucurella. But yeah, it's definitely one to watch. I don't think Trev, is a nailed-on starter at the moment. Personally, he's playing okay. He's playing decent enough, but I think they've brought these players in for a reason. Hato against his old club might be interesting. Could be a good start there, I think. And I think overall, just generally, it was great to see the togetherness after the game, celebrating with the fans, pushing one or two players forward so they can get their cheers. I think that's important. I think the way fans really appreciate that. And I also believe that Maresca running the touchdown last week to celebrate with the players, I think that would have done an enormous amount of good for that team. I think it showed the managers completely behind them. Whether or not he wanted a centre-back in the summer or not, we don't know. We think he probably did, but didn't get it. But he's muscling on without it. He's not complaining about it. He's just getting on with business. I think that him celebrating the way he did for the first goal yesterday, obviously in front of Ajax in the stand. If anyone's not seen that, that's on Instagram. It's quite a funny picture. Ajax sitting, a few rows away from Maresca, and they obviously go mad when they score the goal. I think it's important. I think that Antonio Conte celebrated every goal like it was the last one he was ever going to celebrate. And I think it really it cements what you've done on the training ground all week. And if something comes off, I think you should celebrate those things. A goal in football is very, very precious. And I think that when you're playing against a good team like Forest, and they are a good team, they're hard to beat. I think they played well yesterday. I think you should kind of celebrate all those results. And it just builds a real confidence within the side. And if you think the manager's behind you, I think that's important too. I think he'll be saying to players like Garnacho, who went off yesterday at half-time, he'll be saying, don't worry about it, it's fine, I just want to change the system, it's nothing personal against you. I think the players realise that they're going to be playing in and out a little bit, particularly the wide players. But yeah, I just think it was important that Maresca celebrated with them like that. I think it, particularly with a big home win, the one-match ban was pathetic from the FA, but look, he won't mind. They've gone to Forest, won the game. He would have seen the game from a different perspective yesterday, higher up. And I think that overall, he'll be completely blown away with that 3-0 win. It's a really good, solid result. And if they can go and follow it up now with a win against Sunderland at the weekend, that'll be even better. Although Sunderland are playing well, I think on paper, we will look at it and go, it's going to be 3 points for Chelsea, no problem. But they're actually doing all right, Sunderland, so we need to be careful of their threats going forward. So, yeah, great week for Chelsea. Some decent results. Obviously, there's the Liverpool-Man United game today. There's Spurs and Aston Villa playing out. Obviously, Newcastle lost, which is never a bad thing. So, a good weekend all round for us. Fingers crossed that we get no more injuries, because the injury list is racking up. We could do with some good news with some players coming back eventually. So, onwards and upwards. But, fantastic result, really good performance, and nice to get 3 points.
Sunday afternoon as I record this, and the results this weekend haven't been bad for us, actually, have they? Spurs have pretty much just lost at home to Villa as I record. And obviously Bournemouth, do we see Bournemouth as a genuine Champions League threat this year? I don't know, maybe we do. Obviously losing out to a late equaliser at Palace yesterday. So it's not been too bad in that respect, and the league table looks pretty reasonable. Joe mentioned us playing football yesterday, and if you want to see your 1905 hosts teaming up for a goal on my birthday in our big game, then it is on our Instagram. So a little plug for our Instagram 1905 podcast. But it's been a great weekend, and I thought to finish the pod I would talk about a couple of bits of news that have been coming out and look ahead to the Ajax Champions League game on Wednesday, which, as I'll discuss, is a really important game for us in the competition, I think. But I wanted to pick out a couple of kind of quick things. One was, for those who listened to the last podcast, we talked about the music after goals at Stamford Bridge. Obviously, that'll be something to look out for on Wednesday, hopefully. And the emails to club president Jason Gannon, and I just wanted to give a shout out to Jason, actually, because I emailed him a link to the podcast after the show, and he listened to it. So we have a listener within the club, so thank you for listening to it, Jason. I don't know if you're listening now. And Jason did want to confirm that it is him who does his own emails, so it was very much his own emails and not that of someone working with him. So fair play to Jason, and again, thank you to him for engaging with us and giving kind of the club's point of view on the situation. So one to keep watching, I think. Talking of club appointments, I wanted to talk about one that's been a little bit under the radar, I think, this weekend with everything else that's been going on. But Chelsea, it sounds like, are pretty close to appointing Dave Fallows into the recruitment team alongside Stuart and Stanley. Fallows spent 12 years at Liverpool, so he left in October 2024, effectively just after Klopp left, and by all accounts was a big part in their sort of data recruitment model, the likes of Salah, Mane, Robertson, Alisson, building that team, obviously for the best part of 10 years with Jurgen Klopp. So a really interesting appointment, and yet to be confirmed where he's going to fit in exactly in the recruitment team, but I think the hope has to be, as Chelsea fans, and something we've obviously talked about on the pod a lot, is that clearly we've already shown that we've got a skill in spotting and making sure recruiting really these really talented young players. You've only got to look at Esteval, Cole Palmer, many others, and Joe Shields has obviously been a big part of that. Maybe we can hope that this is a little move in bringing someone in who can help us get those slightly more established signings over the line and that little bit more experience to take us to the next level. But yeah, I think it was worth shouting out. We obviously don't talk about all of the backroom appointments at Chelsea, but he felt like one worth mentioning because it has been in a lot of the mainstream media, actually, like Sam Wallace in The Telegraph and Fabrizio Romano have all talked about it. So clearly seen as a relevant appointment, and it'll be interesting to see how that plays out in the coming months, and I guess whether it has any effect on Chelsea's business in January, with Mark Gay apparently it's confirmed to be leaving Palace now, either in January or at the end of the season, and I think there'll be a lot of clubs queuing up to try and sign him. It'll be interesting to see if Chelsea are one of them. Let's head to the Ajax game on Wednesday then. We actually been invited to be guests on an Ajax podcast and radio show tomorrow night, which is exciting. They're interested to get our view on how Hato's settled in at Chelsea and obviously on the game itself. It's a really big game. I was looking into kind of what points total Chelsea likely need to qualify and obviously qualify automatically. So there's two scenarios basically that we're looking at. Top 8 in this league format qualify automatically for the next stage, and by all accounts you need to get about 15 points for that to happen. So we need 4 more wins obviously from our remaining 6 games, and I'll talk through the games briefly in a second. And anything over 11 points is likely to get you into the next stage of the qualifying, the knockout round, I guess, first knockout round, which does mean extra games in the new year, which I'm sure Chelsea would desperately be hoping to avoid. But you're basically looking at 6 games left. You need to win 4 out of the 6 to get top 8, and 3 out of the 6 to get through to that knockout round. And we didn't really talk in much detail when the draw was made about who we've got, but I wanted to talk through it now, and it's a tough draw. We got a tough draw, didn't we? Obviously, we've already been to Bayern Munich and seen how tough that was. But the games themselves are not easy on paper, and I think it really points to why the game on Wednesday is so important that Chelsea pick up 3 points. I'll do them in order and talk through kind of who we have. Following, obviously, the game on Wednesday, on the 5th of November, so in a couple of weeks, we go to Karabag. And never a nice trip, Karabag. We've obviously played them before. It's just about the longest trip I think you can get in the Champions League, over the way over to Azerbaijan. So that immediately obviously makes it tricky. We know that the weather is likely to be very cold as well. And they are 2 for 2 in the Champions League so far. So actually, a lot of people sort of picks actually as a sort of surprise team to watch in the competition. They've beaten Benfica and at home to FC Copenhagen. So certainly not an easy one there. We then have Barcelona at home. Barcelona top of La Liga, flying. We know all about them, of course, and how many great players they've got. So it's Barcelona at home. No more needs to be said about how tough that is. We then go to Atalanta away. Atalanta unbeaten as at time of recording in Serie A. They're sort of around 6th, 7th in the league. And again, not an easy game over in Italy. You've got Paphos at home, which just has to be a banker, really, the Cypriot team. And then we finish with Napoli away, and obviously a return to face our man Antonio Conte. And again, Napoli are flying this season, top of Serie A at time of recording, and again, doing very, very well. So you look at those fixtures, there are at least 3-4 very tricky games. And it means that when you play Ajax, who have struggled a bit this season, they've lost both of their Champions League games so far. 2-0 at Inter first time out, and 4-0 at Marseille last time. They're 4th in the Dutch league. They lost 2-0 to AZ Alkmaar at the weekend. It really is a game that Chelsea have to be winning if we want to will certainly have any chance of getting automatic qualification. But I think even in the greater scheme of making sure you don't crash out, I think it's a really, really important game. It's an really interesting format, isn't it? The competition, almost to the point that I'm not saying draws don't help you. Of course, a point's a point, but in those home games, you've really got to be picking up 3 points in as many as possible. So yeah, a new world for us, really, of being in this Champions League format for the first time. I want to talk about my team pick for the game on Wednesday and a couple of the sort of reasons why. First of all, of course, for those who don't remember, there's no João Pedro. He obviously suspended for that very silly red card in the Benfica game. And then we have also probably Enzo Fernandez still out. I think he's nursing this knee injury. And you just sort of think with so many big games coming up in the Premier League, I don't think I'd be risking him in this game. So I'll give you my team and a couple of the reasons why. I am rotating a little bit. Part of the reason being that I think, again, although it is an incredibly important game against Ajax, equally we have to be rotating with these so many games coming up, and Sunderland at home is certainly no banker at the weekend, and again a very important game that we get 3 points in. So my team is obviously Sanchez in goal. That's the easy one. I'm going to start with Malo Gusto at right back. Again, he obviously can't play at the weekend anyway because of his stupid red card. I think it's a good chance to give Reece James at least a rest off the bench to start with. I'm going to bring in I'm going to keep Cucurella at left back because, as I will discuss with a couple of other selections, I think he's such an important player in the team, and I think the players I've got alongside him will need his presence. And I'm actually going to bring in at left centre-back Hato, the man that Joe talked about earlier. For a lot of those reasons, I think playing out from the back, having two left-footers on the left side, I think gives us just so much of a better balance. And again, he's one of those players that I think has done enough to deserve a bit more game time. Who better than against his old team that I'm sure he knows so much about and will be so up for that game to give him a game against. And actually, I personally have liked what I've seen of him more at centre-back than I have at left-back. I think he looks a little bit more comfortable in there at the moment for Chelsea. Maybe because it's not an easy role playing fullback at Chelsea in this Maresca system, as we know. There's so much you need to do in terms of movement, whether that's stepping inside to become another one of the number sixes in centre mid, or pushing on as Cucurella sometimes does, crash in the box. It's not your classic simple left back role, and I think at times Hato struggled a little bit with that, whereas at centre back I think it's a bit more straightforward in that he'll know what his job is. And I'm going to bring in Tosin alongside him, and again echoing everything about Josh Acheampong playing games, I'm saving him for the Sunderland game and just sort of thinking with those young legs, let's keep him rested up and let's bring in a bit of experience with Tosin alongside Hato. So that's my back four. I'm going to certainly start Caicedo. Again, such a big game. We need him in there. And I'm going to give Lavia another start as well. I think, again, we need to see him getting a bit of rhythm in his legs and seeing that he's got game time. Maresca said that it was always the plan for him to play 45 minutes against Forest. So again, if maybe he can do another 45 or push that to 60, I think we just need reps from him now and just get him on the pitch, doing what he can. And again, with that Enzo Fernandez injury, I think it makes it a bit easier as a decision. And then my front line, if you like, I'm going to give Gittins a start on the left. Again, I think there's really very little between the likes of Gittins and Garnacho at the moment. And I think that really, by right, Garnacho probably didn't do quite enough against Forest in that first half. I don't think Gittins did a huge amount more in the second half, to be honest. But I just think a little bit of rotation there and having Cucurella behind him, I think it's the good chance for Gittins to get a start. Pedro Neto on the right for me has to start. It's just so important to us at the moment. And this is where I'd like to see us give Esteval a game in the number 10. I think with no Palmer, with no Enzo, there might be a call for Buonanotte to come in, but I just think this is the game to see if Esteval can do it against an Ajax team where they should get a bit of space. It's not obviously going to be as physical as it is in the Premier League. I'd like to see him given a go behind Marc Guéhi up front, who I think, it could well be Tariq George, couldn't it? But in that Forest second half and even coming against Liverpool, I think we've seen the presence that having a proper, old-fashioned number 9 gives you. And actually, Maresca was quite fulsome in his praise of what Mark Gui did against Forest, and I think he deserves a start and would certainly cause problems. So that would be my team. A little bit of rotation, but also in mind of keeping a few players fresh for the Sunderland game. And yeah, we'll be back to reflect on the game. We're watching it together, Joe and I, on Wednesday night, and we'll come back later in the week to talk about what happens against Ajax and obviously preview that big game against Sunderland at the weekend. But 3 wins on the trot, and momentum is so important, as we know. So let's hope that Chelsea can do the business. We'll see you next time. Those were the Chelsea notes for this week. If you enjoyed the podcast, do us a favour and share it with a fellow Blue. And we'd love to hear your thoughts, so leave us a review wherever you're listening. Wherever you may be, stay carefree, and remember, every little thing's gonna be alright.